If you don't know by now, my mom passed away on November 23rd, 2025. Having to say this over and over again is really hard. So I'm making this video for a few reasons. So I don't have to do that and I don't have to relive it over and over again. And because the reason she passed away needs to be heard. She was not sick. She was a healthy 77-year-old woman. We want justice for my mom, and people keep asking what happened. I do want to share this, but it's just very hard. And people need to be talking about this. People need to maybe take something that we learned from this situation. So a little backstory on my mom. She had a brain tumor at age 17 where she had major surgery. And then in 1984, she had a shunt placed to drain cerebral spinal fluid from her brain. In 2023, that shunt stopped functioning and she had it replaced. Early November, we discovered that that 2023 shunt was exposed on her head. And due to the high risk of infection, she was admitted to the ER. The shunt needed to be removed because of infection. This was November 10th. This was a Monday. The neurosurgeon's plan was to wait 4 to 5 months until a replacement would be done. I said, that's not going to work. My mom needs a shunt to live. They changed the timeline to 2 to 3 weeks for a replacement. I said, that's not good enough. And they decided that in 10 days on November 24th, they would replace the shunt. The plan was to put a shunt on the other side of her brain, on the other side of her skull, and to drain the cerebral spinal fluid through her jugular. The risk of infection was too high for it to be replaced at the time of the removal on November 13th. I asked about an external shunt to be placed and the doc said no, that they could do a lumbar drain if that came to it. On November 13th, Thursday, the shunt was removed. November 14th, Friday, she was discharged from the hospital with a midline where she would need antibiotics daily for 10 days. We chose acute rehab for her care because it was going to be hospital-like care, and she was transferred Friday evening. On November 15th, Saturday, I was on my way to visit her at the rehab. Once we got there, we were told that she fell and was at the hospital. She was at a different hospital now. I was told her injuries were a small cut the size of an eyelash on her face. When we arrived at the hospital, we went to the trauma ER and we were told that they didn't know who my mom was or what her condition was or why she had bandages on her head. She was labeled Dolphin, which is also known as Jane Doe. She had 3 orbital fractures, and above her right eye was not an eyelash. It was something that needed 3 stitches. She had a black eye that covered the right side of her face, and she was unresponsive. On Sunday, November 16th, she was moved to the ICU and a breathing tube was inserted. She was still unresponsive. On November 17th, Monday, a new neurosurgeon placed an external shunt, and then a few days later, a new shunt was placed. It was placed on the other side of her head in her brain, and it would drain through the body, not the jugular. My mom was not on sedation. She was unresponsive, yet she had good vitals and EEG activity. The doctors in that hospital did everything they could while giving our whole entire family hope. It came to the point to have to make the big decisions because the cerebral spinal fluid caused so much pressure on the brain, it destroyed her brain cells. She was not able to breathe on her own, and I was told we would not be getting the same mom or Miriam back. If my mom were to wake up, she would need nursing home care and life-assisting machines for the remainder of her life. Myself and my siblings chose to transfer her to hospice on November 22nd, Friday. She was surrounded by family and her 3 children, talking, sharing memories, laughing, crying, and singing praise music until she took her last breath and her last heartbeat. We do not feel my mom got the care she needed from the first hospital or doctors or the rehab, and we want to bring awareness to this horrible story. After her passing, myself and my siblings had to make decisions, sign a lot of papers, and then we each spent Thanksgiving with our little families. We are grieving the loss of our mom, trying to navigate what's next. There will be a service in January. We've gone over every guilt-ridden thought possible, anything, something we could have said or done differently. So we ask at this point to spread the story, to bring awareness, and then just to pray for our peace and pray for justice for our mom.